All right, everybody, here we are. This is INDE's AR Explainer. Today we're talking about the reality of AR in fashion. There are 4 dudes on the screen. Hello, dudes. What's up? So when there's 4 dudes on the screen, you got to say that there are 4 dudes. Where'd that come from? That came out of nowhere. So, I mean, it's a really good track. There we go. So here we are, and you know what I just did? I had LinkedIn on the radio in the background. So everybody knows if you call into the radio, turn the radio down.
You get a little bit of feedback.
Yes, Jesus. Okay, so we're definitely live. I definitely checked it. So thanks for everyone for joining, and thanks for everyone who's tuning in, possibly to the the after clips, right? And what we have here today, we've got we've got the C-suite of INDE. Actually, these are all C-level people, folks. So top right, we've got CEO Alex Paulson. Going down, we've got Shava Fragoso, who is the CTO at INDE. And we've got Alex Allenson, who's the C007. Hey. Right?
He looks the warmest out of all of us today.
Yeah, okay. So what we're going to talk about today, and I'm just going to grab one of these guys at a time. So I'm just going to remove this and come back to the Chief Executive Officer, and I think I believe your name. I'm just kidding. I know you.
I would really hope so. At this point.
That's not you. That is you. So Alex. So we're talking about this, and by the way, I'm Brett. I'm hosting this thing, and the impetus for this is that there is a lot happening in the retail space right now. It's like crazy shakeup of what's going on. Like pandemic is really making people question what retail is right now. And there's been a huge kind of leap towards technology. And I think people know that technology is supposed to do something in this space, but they don't know exactly what it's supposed to do. So augmented reality is obviously what INDE does extremely well. And wanted to get your thoughts, just first of all, like macro level, what the F is going on in retail? What's going on with fashion? Just can we get an update, because you must have all the answers to these questions.
Yeah, thanks. You just dropped me right at the deep end. I mean, 2020's been a super odd year, but I think one of the things it's done is magnified the kind of total disconnect in between the physical stores and the online kind of presence. And I think one thing we're kind of seeing is that they almost operate as separate entities. So I think the pandemic's kind of magnified the idea of of needing to kind of draw a closer link between the two things. So I think physical stores are traditionally very non-digital. There's not really any level of interaction and interactivity that's happened over many years. So I think that's where kind of AR is beginning to kind of slot in. I think this year has kind of sped up certain conversations in terms of things like visualization of product, try on, etc. But I think it's been very sort of slow progress, but there's a tremendous amount of opportunity just in terms of linking the two up. I mean, from my perspective, your online persona is not translating through to the store, which is like problem number one. And you kind of you can walk it all the way out from there.
So do you think? I mean, there's a lot of schools of thought on this that there's always been this problem connecting the digital world and the physical world of the store. And then you have like the kind of old schoolers who say people will never leave the store. They always want to go, they want to go in, they want to touch, they want to try on. And then people say, well, we're going to go completely digital only. So I think there's something in the middle there that I think everyone realizes they have to find, but there's really no magic formula, right? It's not.
I don't think so. I think the reality is that they're going to need to work together. I don't think online is going to kill the physical store. I think in truth, you said it, and you said it in the past couple of weeks that people are gagging to get back to some kind of physical space. And I think there's a lot of things that are afforded through physical retail that can't be done online. To start off with, you're not around people, which obviously is a contentious point right now. But generally speaking, most people want I think from what I've seen over the past kind of 5-10 years, there's been this kind of feeling that somehow things like AR or VR to a certain extent, somehow they're out to destroy physical retail, and I don't think that's true at all. I think the opposite is the case. I think they're there to kind of enhance that experience and to turn these places into destinations.
So I wanted to talk about, I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is that retailers, they want to make smart investments, and they're not just dumping their real estate unless they didn't pay their rent, for example. Then they're gone, right?
Which is relatively common.
Which is happening. So which is actually not funny at all. I shouldn't joke about it because it kind of sucks. But it's kind of like maybe they're being forced a little bit out of the retail space just by cash flow reasons, which is the thing that we have to understand. But other retailers, they're just making sure that the space that they have works harder for them. And I wanted to play just a really quick clip of some work that you guys did in the past few years of this is not pandemic era stuff. This is before that, but of just a retailer trying to get the most out of their space. So give me just a second, and then I want to hear from you, Alex, and then Shava on that one as well. Cool. So, I mean, I think my takeaway here is that this was an experiment and giving people like this delightful experience, and they have like visually, there's tons of stuff going on. You walk by, you're drawn in, that kind of thing. So obviously you still want that kind of, excited feeling, and you still want people drawn into the store. But is that now, as we look into investments going forward with the retail store like that, are they not looking for that beautiful storefront display? Does that not need to be like monetizable and clickable and QR codable? Do they need to like be able to do more with that storefront now? And so the question to you is, do they want that? And the question to Java will be, can you make it? Is it possible?
Difficult one. I have the easy one.
Yeah.
I think there's an appetite there. I mean, with the work we did with Tilly's was a good example of a brand kind of approaching us and talking about how they could turn the storefront into something that was more interactive, more dynamic, more visually appealing. But I think the storefront is kind of the taxi industry sort of pre-Uber. It's kind of terrifying that it still manages to exist as it is right now. You have this very, very static display. So again, to go very quickly back to the point about online, if you go to a store's online, their online e-commerce, it's usually a very dynamic kind of offering. And then it's amazing if you take that digital storefront and then you kind of superimpose that over the physical storefront, there's usually no comparison. And to me, it's like it should be the hardest working piece of real estate in the entire retail portfolio, and yet most of the time it's kind of pretty flat.
Cool. So I'm just going to jump over to Java because I want to hear your take on this. So no pressure, but not something to get your lower thirds right. Hey man, how's it going? Welcome.
All good.
Yeah.
Thanks,
so back with Java, Mr. CTO.
CTO, to correct you, I'm in charge of development. We have another person on CTO, so we collaborate together in tech, content, and development.
You'll always be my C-man, whatever you are. So I'm not all about that. So just thinking, if you look at what is actually possible right now, tech-wise, right? So easier question is, do you feel that the tech is there now to meet like this sudden surge, right? So everybody wants something new from technology. They want miracles right now. And the question is, Saint Shava, can you perform them for us?
Well, tech shouldn't be a miracle, right? Tech should be like a natural response of a real problem. So in that specific situation, in that specific example with retailers and like storefronts, like sometimes they forget that it's also a media channel. So it's a two-way communication with your customers. So in the same way that you have, like engagement through, like different digital channels, your front shop, it's also a channel that potentially could be digital in that respect. And unlike any other surface, and that's the beauty of the, like the unique affordances of augmented reality, mixed reality, and so on, is that it could blend like a digital, a physical space with a digital overlay, which we try to make with this specific scenario. So how can you expand something that, like the laws of physics, only allow you to expand on a digital way? So in short, we can provide solutions for that, but not, like the approach shouldn't be how I replace the communication. Instead, how I open this new channel of communication that people it's already like familiar with.
Cool. So I want to turn to a piece of tech that so many retailers are asking for, and that clearly does solve a problem. So the problem is we are living in a pandemic era here. We go to a retail store where we would like to try on clothes, but we may not try on the clothes, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to share, and it was what is a video that actually sparked the idea for this episode is your experiments in try on. So I'm just going to cut to that, and then we'll talk about it in a second. I'm going to come to you, Alex A, too. So you won't escape this fun conversation as well. So here we go with this video, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so the first question here. So who's the gentleman in the front there? Just so I know.
That is the CTO.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So I just wanted to bring in Alex here. I said the first question when I watched this was, is that CTO, is he wearing pants in real life? Do we know?
That is a secret that he keeps very close to his chest. And the rest of us don't really want to know. Okay,
well, I mean, I want to know. So if we can just sort that out by the next episode, it'd just be great. I'm just making note of it. Yeah.
Use the inventory.
So just thinking, when you look at this, clearly is solving a problem. Like lots of retailers would love that everyone can walk into their store and then try on their clothes that they have, right? But I've heard that I've heard directly from INDE. So normally, like if you were selling this stuff, you'd be like, it's perfect, buy it, it's done, ship it, right? Instead, I see Alex, who I took off screen, is like, actually, it's not exactly what I want it to be yet. There are problems. He's the first one to be on LinkedIn saying, it's not perfect yet, and don't let anyone sell you snake oil and say that it is. So, and our CEO is like, oh, really? He should really not say. But so my question here is a little bit, what's missing in this technology? Why isn't it? Where are we in clothing try-on, and basically where do we need to get to before this totally mainstreams? Because it seems like everybody wants it to. Just how long do we have to wait?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, and certainly a question that I get asked a lot by people coming to us from our sales channels, looking at what they can do in this space. I think the challenge with AR is that you've got hardware, software, and content, and it all needs to work to deliver the experience that you want to the end customer. And given that it's also new technology, you are breaking into a new area, you're trying to change people's habits. There's all kinds of barriers to you really then pushing through into the mainstream. And coupled with the fact that new stuff, I mean, I used the example of like, you look at an app, you download an app for your phone. If it's no good, you don't go back next week and see if it's better. You think it's no good. So as our business, we've always adopted the approach that it's either great or it's not really worth bothering, because fundamentally in the eyes of the customer, it's either great or it's not really worth bothering. it's kind of that clear. We operate in the kind of premium end of the spectrum, essentially because we want to be reliable. We want people to come to us and ask us questions and us deliver solutions to them, and those solutions to work, for things to be plugged in and they work, not fall over every 10 minutes.
Makes sense.
In our specific question, I think the challenges that we're consistently facing are the challenges of how quickly they can develop hardware that delivers imagery to the right quality and renders properly, to essentially to a level that a customer would expect, to deliver a level of realism that they can get clearly in terms of broadcast TV, but also now in gaming. They're getting like levels of digital experience which look amazing. And we want to be able to deliver that as well. And the limitations are consistently hardware, fundamentally. It's the ability to process imagery to a level which a customer's going to go, yeah, that looks right, I'm interested. So that, that's the barrier we're up against. But as a team, we've worked in this technology for a long time now. Really almost as long as it's been something you can commercialize. So we are very well. I think we're very pro managing expectations and really only saying that we can do things if we really think we can. No, we're not like adept. Well, let's throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. We want to do stuff which really resonates because that works for the customer, and it also evangelizes our technology.
I think it also validates the approach of the world's most honest LinkedIn commenter, Alex Paulson. So yeah, if you got a good thing, then you say it. If it's not good enough yet, then you say that too. So Alex, I remember seeing one comment that you made where you said, it's pretty good, but it doesn't. Well, usually, I'm trying to leave that out since that's your brand and not mine.
Yeah, indeed.
Is that the fabric doesn't look quite right. It doesn't look true to life, right? So if you are a fashion retailer, then it's just not quite. Your product doesn't look right. So tell me more about it.
I think and Alex has kind of touched on this just now. There's certain things that you can sell via AR that you could probably get away with a kind of cartoon version of. So if you want to visualize, to a certain extent, IKEA can show it's more useful for you to see an AR version of the sofa and be able to relatively closely color match it to the room and size wise. But if you're selling clothing, then the touch of the fabric, the type of fabric, the cut is the only thing that you have to sell. And that's not something, yes, you can kind of catwalk it. You can see it on someone who's 6'4". But there's that point where it becomes problematic for you, and that you need to see it on yourself, and that's the issue that we're kind of facing. I mean, cloth simulation is really hard, and I think particularly at the moment, and this is one of the reasons why I call out some issues on LinkedIn, is that mobile is not capable of rendering the kind of graphics that fashion brands need. Period. And anyone who says they are, they're not telling the truth, because we're all subject to roughly the same rules and roughly the same processing power through roughly the same rendering engines. You're only using 2-3 rendering engines, Unity, Unreal, and maybe another. So everyone's kind of roughly at the same place. And I think that's, if you rely on the fact that a fashion brand of any real substance is going to want the product to look real on the person or look real in front of them, then a relatively middle range poly 3D object isn't enough. And it's, people wonder why it hasn't been taken on yet. Well, it hasn't been taken on yet because it's either not personalized to the person, to the actual frame of the person, or it looks like a cartoon version of the clothing that you're looking to buy. And neither of those is good enough, period.
Not good enough yet. So understood. We're at about the 20-minute mark. I'm going to ask one final question. I will demand a one-number answer from each of you, and I'm going to start with Java. The question is, how many years until this technology not only is good, but that it is so mainstream that I'm doing it in store and I'm doing it at home? How many years, please? One number.
I'll say 5.
Alex Allenson, your number, please.
Let's be ambitious and say 3.
Okay, we're gonna get more ambitious or less. Alex Paulson.
No, 3.
All right. That's it. Well, we figured out we've got 3 years before we've nailed this thing. How much faster is it moving now than it was going to move before, right? So if I would ask you the question last year, would you have said the same answer, yes or no, nod, or not? Nod? Same answer if I asked you last year? Or are we moving faster because of this pandemic thing? No? Oh, well, we'll have to tune in next time for more of this one, guys, because we're at time. So this is the first in many. It's been a test. I think it's a pretty good test. Let's hope that it actually saved on some hard drive somewhere or in some cloud somewhere so that we can watch it. But if nothing else, these live streams are always fun for whoever took part, even if it's the 4 dudes I see on screen. So it's been a good one. There'll be more to come here on LinkedIn, and I think we'll be streaming to YouTube in time. So this is AR Explainer episode 1, and we're going to sign off right now with the characteristic wave of video calling. You must do it. It is the new etiquette. Style.